ready.
Welcome to another episode of Buff in the Rough. Today you'll hear from Gary Moore and learn about his start with Possum dogs, thoughts on 35 plus years of Beagling, teaching sportsmanship, and a whole lot more. Help me welcome Gary Moore to the program. Well, hey Gary, how are you?
I'm doing quite well, actually. A little warm here, but we're doing good.
Well, that's good to hear. Hey, I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing a little bit about your history and just talking dogs with me. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say. But for those that are listening that maybe don't know who Gary Moore is, would you mind to just tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got into hunting?
Well, I have hunted all my life. I started to say I was a coon hunter, but that's actually not right. I started out many, many years ago as a possum hunter. And my grandfather on my mother's side was really involved in treeing dogs. If it didn't tree, it wasn't worth sport. And I went with him when I was probably 6 and 7. And I was afraid of the dark and all that, but I went hunting anyway. And I have done it all my life. And I run coondogs until probably about 30 years ago, 35. And I went to Beagles and been there ever since. And I've just always enjoyed a working dog. I used to go to fairs or wherever and watch border collies herd sheep and what have you, and loved it. Mm-hmm. Did I try to do it? No. But I just like dog work, and I think that's the key to young men or young people, young girls too. They like to watch the dogs and train them and enjoy what they are able to do with them.
I just think they're amazing. I'm like you, Gary. I appreciate a good working dog no matter what it's doing. If it's running and treeing coons or running rabbits or tracking a deer or squirrels or whatever, I just appreciate good dog work. But I tell you, I've interviewed a lot of people, and I've never had one tell me they got into hunting and their first hunt was a possum hunt.
Well, actually, that's what it was. At the time that I was old enough to go with my granddad, there wasn't hardly any coons in this area, raccoons. Mm-hmm. And I can actually remember when they brought coon in here from Florida to stockfish country. And of course now they're just sick, but we possum hunted. That's what we did. And my granddad had an old barn, and he put these possum hides on the back of the barn, but if you ever caught a coon, it was on the front of the barn where everybody could see it.
I love it.
But that's how I started as possum hunter.
Well, Gary, you mentioned like what the hunting was like where you live. So am I right in saying that you live in the Ozark Mountains, kind of southern Missouri?
I certainly do, southwest Missouri. Most people can relate to where I live. I live close to Branson. I'm about 50, 60 miles from Branson. And I found over the years, you want to tell someone and say, oh, I live close to Springfield. Not so much. If you live close to Branson, everybody knows what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So what's hunting like where you live? Is it hilly? Is it flat? Is there big water? Is it open woods?
Hilly. Very hilly. There's a few flat areas north of me, but right where I live, it's the Ozark Mountains, and I had a guy that was from up northern Missouri used to come down there. He's gone, passed away now. And in the flatland where there's a lot of grain, and I said, yeah, but our country here is worth a lot more. And he said, how on earth can you say that? I said, we farm 3 sides of it. So let that soak in for a minute. It's very hilly, very rough, very rocky. There is a few that they have cleaned it up with dozers, and fescue grass has made a lot of difference in our area. That we are actually able to grow anything as far as that's concerned.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I noticed when I was doing some homework on you was that your kennel name is Brook Hollow. So where did that name come from?
Okay. This granddad, same one that I possum hunted with, his name was Shirley Brook, Brooke.
Mm-hmm.
And the place where they lived somehow adopted the name Brook Hollow. And after he had actually passed away, I started the Beagle business, or if it's a business, and I lived in a little way-frame house in that Brook Hollow. So one thing to another, and to honor my granddad, and also to the place where I lived, my dogs became Brook Hollow Beagles.
Oh, I love that story, and I love remembering our elders. I love looking back at our grandparents and what kind of influence they had on us. But I also noticed that it didn't start out as Brook Hollow Possum dogs. It started out as Brook Hollow Beagles. So I appreciate that too.
The Brook Hollow started as Beagles completely. But it was my granddad. He was a houndsman, and like I've already said, if it didn't tree, it wasn't any good for anything. But he loved to train young dogs to hunt, and that was just his life. And as a result, it kind of become my life as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to ask you, I noticed that you're a bench show judge. And I wanted to ask you about that. Like, what is it? Like, how long have you been a bench show judge, and what did you have to go through to be qualified to be a bench show judge?
Well, I started out as coondog bench show judge, and there was very few judges in our area, and I was almost forced into it. And then I got into Beagles, and Beagles, of course, was the same way to start with. I was back in the Beagle program when UKC, and I am a UKC hunter. That's what I hunt almost in its entirety.
Mm-hmm.
There was very few. There's got to be more. Somebody had to do it, I guess, is the reason. But what you have to do, you have to take a test. Now, a club starting out can they call it grandfathering in somebody, and the grandfathering in, all they got to do is take the written test, and I'm not sure if I remember everything. They got to pass that test, then they got to apprentice under a licensed judge 3 times, I believe, so, if I remember correctly, and it's been a long time ago. But that's kind of how I got started, and what you have to do, you have to take a test on the food standards, and you kind of got to know what they're supposed to look like, and there used to be a point system, and I haven't seen anyone know what that is for years.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for instance, a head was 5 points, feet and legs were 20 points, and on down the line. And but most people have just they've gotten away from it. And that's pretty much how it happened.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that, because that sounds like it's pretty tough. I mean, you don't just send them money and they send you a bench show judge license. I mean, you have to go through testing and learn the standards, and then once you get the test done, you have to go out and apprentice under several different judges and kind of do some on-the-job training too, which I think is super important. How did that help you when you decided to breed beagles? Did you look at how they were made? Did that help you any?
Yeah, of course. I don't know if I know exactly how to say this or not, but people just have a dog that'll run around it, and that's what it takes. But to go out and we originally hunted beagles. All that's what the UKC hunting beagle format is for, to simulate actually going out and hunting and killing rabbits, if the case be that.
Yes, sir.
It does help in the fact because a dog looks good in a lot of ways doesn't mean that he's going to have the stamina to go out there and run 6, 7, 8 hours. And that's what it was built for, was to look at the legs, a good snout, straight body, the head really, of course, don't make a difference in how a dog performs. But the feet and legs is very important. The loin is something that you got to really look at, and that's what you look for in a dog that is able to go out there and perform all day long or multiple days in a row. And that's why some of our bigger hunts that we go to last 2 or 3, 4 days, and it's actually, I call it a marathon.
Oh yeah.
And that's what the standard of the body that a dog uses is very important. Yeah, I like a pretty dog, and everybody else does, but I guess they do anyway. But it's actually the part of the body that allows it to have stamina to hunt all day, maybe all week, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to ask you a question about some of those foundation type dogs that you've had, that you've built your bloodline on, built your kennel name on over the years. And there's 2 in particular, and you can talk about any of them that you want, but there was 2 in particular. I'd just like to hear more about them. But one in particular was one named Brook Hollow Bossman, and another one was Brook Hollow Sarah Lee. Those were 2 that jumped out at me, and I'd love to hear just their story. Like, where did they come from? What were they like as puppies, if you had them then? I mean, what's a little bit about why they were so important to your breeding program?
Okay, Bossman was a true rabbit dog, and you're probably, as this interview goes on, you're going to hear me mention Mike Roy several times. We have raised and bred and whatever beagles, not completely in conjunction, but it's been intermingled all through the years. I bought Bossman from Mike Roy's son, and that goes back to years ago. There was an old man that lived here, and he went over by Piedmont, Missouri, and he bought 3 dogs, 2 females and a male. And there was Bunny Hill Bugle, which I later bought, and there was one named Lil, and then Bale. He really didn't play into this equation as much. But this Lil female was bred and reproduced a little yellow lemon-spotted female that she wasn't, as far as the looks, she didn't have a lot, but bred her to a SPO AKC type dog, Reynolds Rockin' Jet. And she had this litter of pups, and old Bossman was one of them. And at the time, I was raising a lot of puppies to sell on the internet or to brokers. And I brought old Bossman home. He was a kind of a special looker dog. He was nice. And I started breeding just regular females and selling them as puppies. And that's where, and Bossman started hunting. I had another dog called Gold Nugget that I hunted before him. But Bossman was really the first the dog that I put a lot of time in, going to trials and what have you. And we bred females to him in this whole country, everybody. But a lot of females to Bossman. And if you look at UKC pedigree, and he was AKC registered as well, but if you look at a UKC pedigree from this area, you won't go very far till you see Brook Hollow Bossman in that pedigree. He was the second grand that I actually campaigned, and he was a smaller dog, wasn't too big, but he was a very classy looking little dog. And Sarah Lee was a granddaughter of Bossman. There was a guy bred a female to old Bossman, and the stud pup became Sarah Lee's mother. Sarah Lee, if you will look, she was a dual grand, and she is the 10th, I believe, in the historical record of UKC in reproduction female.
Oh, wow.
And that, we're kind of proud of that. Well, on the other side of the equation, this same female that produced Sarah Lee, her name was Ringer. And we were starting the youth program here in southern Missouri. And I was getting donations of things to give away, sell, whatever, at this youth program to raise money. And David Tipton was a notable breeder in this area, and he had an old dog named Sky King. And I approached David about giving a stud fee. He did. I remember I bought $20 worth of tickets on that old dog and won it. And this Ringer female, directly out of Boss Man, I took her and I bred her to David Tipton's old Sky King dog. And that reproduced a litter of pups that Clifty Creek Big John was in. Clifty Creek Big John, which belonged to Mike Roy, got him when he was a baby. He, at this time, is 10th on the reproduction record of males. He was at one time, he was up to 2. But the fact remains, Sarah Lee and Big John were half brother and half sister. Their mothers was the same.
Wow.
Sarah Lee was a female that, she was hard to beat. And I started to sell her to a broker when she was a baby. And she had a spot in her eye. And that took care of the sale of her to the broker. And I kept her, and she started to be pretty dominant in the hunts. In fact, back then you didn't have the same form we got now, and she was only beaten one time in all the hunts that I ever put her in. Big John, if you will check the background on him, very few dogs in this whole area is not related to Big John and or Sarah Lee or Boss Man all the way back. And that's kind of how that happened and how that got started. And their pups, we made a cross, which was a half-brother, half-sister cross with John and Sarah Lee, and they were extremely good. Each and every one of them that had any chance whatsoever was very dominant in the field, and they were also very good-looking dogs. So that's kind of where that came from. In this country, everybody knows who the John Dog is. That's the kind of a bloodline, maybe. He goes back to the John Dogs. Well, that's how that happened, and we're still hunting them.
Well, I love hearing the history behind people's bloodlines and those dogs that are kind of the foundation stock for people's dogs that they're still hunting to this day. And that kind of brings me up to a hound that is more recent, I guess, and his name is Cade, Brook Hollow Cade. I'm thinking he's in the Hall of Fame. I know he has a lot of titles that he's won. Certainly a very successful hound in the field. And I had somebody tell me they think he might be the only Hall of Fame dog out of Missouri. I don't know if that's true or not, but could you tell us a little about Cade?
He's the only Hall of Fame dog at this time. There are several that's getting pretty close, but he's the only Hall of Fame dog that is west of the Mississippi.
Wow.
I had the privilege of actually breeding and having Cade whelped here at my place, and I sold him to Jason Snelson. And he was able to take him and campaign pretty hard. And he's only 4 yet, I think. And he is, as far as I know, the only Hall of Fame dog west of the Mississippi River. And at the time he made all the fame, there was very few anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very prominent dog. He's won the Western Eliminator twice. He has made quite good showings in other big hunts, and he's just quite a dog. He has looks. He has stamina. He'll do the job for you. He's quite a dog.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of brings me to the current dogs, and I keep hearing about a younger dog named Katie. And I think she did well in the Clash of Champions and maybe did well in the Eliminator West. Is that kind of one of the up-and-coming dogs right now?
No, she's actually one of the older, not older, she's coming six. She's actually here in my kennel. Katie, she done well in the Clash last year. She went to the third round, I guess, of it. And she is directly out of the old Big John dog.
Wow.
And her mother was out of the Sara Lee female. So it's all just kind of a round and round circle.
Mm-hmm.
As you go into these dogs and leave that guy. I will admit the John dog bloodline is starting to get a little thin. We've done it for a lot of years, but Katie is she's a very pretty dog. She's dual grand. She has she's not extremely footy fast dog,
mm-hmm.
but she runs her game real well. She goes hunting. She'll jump here rabbit. She's a basic everyday rabbit dog. That's what you would have to classify her.
My favorite kind. If you ask my friends what kind of dog I like, they'll say Sam likes a good rabbit dog. That's my favorite kind.
I told the guy the other day, he said, my dog, and we was talking about his dog, and he said, but he's winning. I said, yes, but he's not a rabbit dog. And you can take Katie, you can kill a mess of rabbits, you can take her to a hunt, 6 years old or whatever, but she's still very apt to beat you when you set her down. She does everything right. And besides that, she looks good.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, now
I still have her.
Well, you have a lot of experience breeding and making crosses and raising pups and stuff. When you're looking for a puppy to keep for you, what do you look for? How do you pick your puppies?
Well, in a lot of cases, it's spots of land, but that's really not a good answer for what you're asking. First of all, look at the bloodlines. Look at the pedigree. There will be, on occasion, an outstanding dog come from a line of dogs that have not necessarily been that great.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, the real good dogs come from real good parentage. And it irritates me, I guess, is a word I might need to use. People, they have a dog and I'm going to take it, and it's not, they don't like it, but they're going to take it and breed it some good stud dog somewhere that is reproducing. What? How can you expect to take nothing and breed it something and get something great? It's kind of the way I look at it. There's a lot of dogs that are bred just because people have them and they like them and they're going to. And every dog that this particular person gets is a great dog, a wonderful dog. Well, that's mostly because they like that dog and it's their pet. My dogs, I have to say, it's not my pets.
Mm-hmm.
I don't pet dogs. I don't rub them. I don't play with them. I take them hunting and correct them when they're wrong. But as far as a pet, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've got to look in picking my pup. Now, I like a pretty pup. I really like a pretty dog. But that's still not it. What is its background? What's its parentage, its lineage? I mean, look at the pedigree. And then it's still a shooting match. What's going to turn out good and what's not. I mean, good dogs don't always produce good dogs. And once in a while, like I said earlier, there'll be a outstanding individual come from very meager background. But I don't want a dog as a puppy that don't have a chance to be good, and I like it to be pretty.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's kind of
sure. Well,
where I go with it.
So once you pick your puppy, how do you train it? Do you take it out with older dogs? Do you send it off for somebody else to train, a training pen or something? How do you get them started? And the other part of that is, once you get them going and get them hunting, when do you know they're ready to go to compete in a trial? So that's kind of a two-part question. How do you train them and get them going, and then how do you know when they're ready for a trial?
I'm not too eager to start a pup. I live in a place where I can't let one run loose. My ideal of starting a puppy is to take it to someone where they have dogs that will run, and you can just turn it loose and let it learn what you're starting it to do on its own. How do I tell when a puppy is ready? You've got a Katie that we just talked about, and when it starts to become competitive with the Katie or whatever dog that you're running it with,
mm-hmm.
then if it's competitive with her, I can take it to a trial and have hope in placing it or being competitive at least with the other dogs.
Right.
Just kind of watch them. The puppy. This is kind of a rule of thumb that I have. If you notice, if you don't have a lot of pups, when you first start hunting them with an old dog, they'll run around and lick the old dog in the face. It shows they're giving up their dominance. And when they quit that, when they start actually acting like they want to do something, that's kind of when I'm ready to start putting hard hunting in on. And I haven't gotten to the point where I can't hunt hard anymore. I just more or less take them out and listen. But you can tell when a puppy starts to actually blossom and come on and be competitive. And that's kind of how probably sometimes I put them in competition before they're actually ready, or I did.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, Gary,
that's pretty much. Go ahead.
You said you've been doing this for how many years?
In the Beagles?
Yeah.
About 35 years.
Okay. And it goes back even farther than that if you go in through your coon dogs and your possum dogs too. But what's kept you going all these years? I mean, what's fun about hunting these beagles that's made you never give it up? You just kept going.
Well, you've got to love the dog work. You've got to love dogs to start with, but you got to love what you're trying to train the dog to do, the dog work. I need a young dog or a new dog at least, that I can get excited about. And here just a short while back, I got to where I really didn't have anything that I was excited about.
Mm-hmm.
The excitement of seeing a dog start doing whatever they're supposed to do and develop into what you want them to be, and see them advance. Maybe not every time you take them hunting, but about so, quite often. And that's what makes me excited when one really starts to mature into what you want it to do. And think, that pup's going to be able to go to competition before very long. And I guess that's what keeps me excited, keeps me pursuing this thing, and just the fact you just love the dog work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like to always talk about kids and kind of the next generation and what we're doing to pass this on to the youngsters. If there were people out there listening that maybe have young kids that aren't old enough to go hunting yet, but they might consider it or might not, why should parents take their kids hunting and try to get them involved in hunting over something like playing sports or playing video games or whatever else kids are into nowadays? I mean, why should they maybe introduce their kids to hunting? What's good about hunting for kids?
Well, the kids, I'm very strongly opposed to the video games. That doesn't teach them anything but sports. Most everybody, all men, during the time that their children are in the high school baseball, football, basketball era, you'll see a lot of them that'll get away from hunting. Why would I want to? I've got 2 boys. They don't care about hunting, not at all. And why? It's a special thing that a kid really loves the dog work. And I keep going back to it. The dog work is what makes them go. Why do I want my kids to go and do things like that? First of all, probably I want them to go with me. I want them to like what I like. And that's just something that's selfish. It gives them good exercise. If you're going to be successful in competition hunting, you got to think. You got to really think. Most kids won't, but there's those few that will. But take them and give them a chance. A lot of them won't last. They'll fall out and go play video games, like you said, or most all boys, and that's what I think of. There is some girls that do it, but most all boys go through the stage when they're in their upper teens and lower 20s, and to the girls' scene really comes into play on it. Sports, I already mentioned that, but I just think it's good for them, the competition. If they can compete and keep their cool, maybe that's not a good way to put it, but be able to compete, take defeat, and also learn how to win and win gracefully. That's what I think it would be advantageous to the young person. I wish mine would do it, but they won't.
Well, Gary, let me ask you another question, kind of similar but relatable in some ways, and that is to do with sportsmanship, with trying to teach youngsters how to be good sports. And one of the things in the region I hunt in is there's a lot of good dogs here. And anytime I go to one of these hunts, I'm not a huge competition guy, but I do like to go from time to time and see how my dog stacks up against everybody else's. And one thing's for sure, the chances are higher that you're going to lose than they are that you're going to win. You know, you got 4 guys out there, and 3 of them are going to lose. And if you're lucky, in UKC, you need those plus points most of the time to win. You're going to have one winner. But I know you've seen good sportsmanship out there over the years. Is there anything that sticks out to you, an old memory of just somebody did something really nice for somebody else, or you witnessed some good sportsmanship? What does that mean to you? What does it look like to you?
Let me relate back to the very first UKC coon hunt that I was ever entered. And you hear all these, I guess it's respect to certain people over the years, and boy, they're really something. Well, they're men or women, just like the rest of us, that put on their shoes one at a time. And the first hunt that I went on, it was a coon hunt. I drawed, and I'm sure most people out there will know who William Moochman is. I'm not talking about Wilbur. I'm talking about old man William Moochman and the Blue Dogs, Southern Blue Dogs. And I thought, man, William Moochman, what have I got here? And that was one of the most pleasurable hunts that I've ever been on. And if there was a way that William Moochman could have caused one of the other members, especially me as a young man, to win that cast, he would have backed down and let you have it. Now, that's one thing. To say that is to say this. We need to not bend the rules and give the kids extra lean away from keeping the rules for them.
Mm-hmm.
But too many people will actually bend the rules to win themselves against a 15-year-old, 12-year-old girl that doesn't really know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Be a sportsman.
Mm-hmm.
Teach them kids to win and or to lose, and tell them, well, the rules here says this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we got to go by. And people will say, oh, I'll be lenient with this kid. No, not really. Because if you do, then he will expect it, and sooner or later it will come back to bite somebody real bad. And the sportsmanship, my mind goes back to a man that is gone on to be with the Lord. And Mike Ridenhour, most people in the UKC Beagles have heard of Mike Ridenhour. Mm-hmm. He was as competitive as any man ever was. He didn't bend the rules to favor him, but he did everything in the world he could to beat you. But when you got back to the clubhouse, he was your friend again. And too many people will carry a cast home with them into the next week, into the next month. Well, if I'd have done this, if my dog had done that, if you hadn't done, when it's over, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And but be conscious of younger people, new people that may not know the rules as well as you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the sportsmanship there is very, very important.
That's fantastic advice. I appreciate you sharing those stories too. So as we wrap up the Beagle portion, because I do want to ask you about coonhounds too, but as we wrap up the Beagle part, how do you feel about the future of the sport? Do you feel good about it? Do you think we're in a pretty good place? Is there enough interest from the kids to keep this going?
We, in the area here where I live, we've got about 5 or 6 boys that have really got involved. And they've gotten to the point where they can win on occasion. In fact, we had one of our boys that actually went to the Final Four cast of the Nationals a few weeks ago, Ben Little. And the future of the sport, there is, as in anything that is competitive, there's a lot of people out there that win is the only way.
Mm-hmm.
Pull your horns in. Be like a William Moochman.
Mm-hmm.
Let the younger person win if he's got it coming. But too many of us want to win, want a degree, and we'll do anything. And we actually lick our chops, so to speak, if we go to a place and we draw out with a whole bunch of kids, 3 other people. I got this made. No, that isn't the way to look at it. The future of the sport is those 3 young men that you draw, the 3 young people.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that hurts it is people that don't abide by the rules. Like they will cheat you if there's any way possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that deters people from wanting to compete, wanting to come back. And many, now I will say this, a lot of people that get cheated in hunts don't know the rules, and that's what cheats them.
Mm-hmm.
But they come and they feel like they've been cheated. Tell them why you're minusing this dog or why you're plussing that dog. Tell them why. What happened here that caused that to happen. Explain. That is what makes the sport proceed, progress, and people want to come back and be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that answered the question, but I think that's important.
Oh, yeah, that's a very good answer. Is there any, as we wrap up, Gary, on this Beagle part, is there anything I didn't ask you about that I should have, or is there anything you want to promote about your Beagles? Do you have any litters coming up or stud dogs that you'd like to promote, anything like that?
I have come up with a dog here in the last few weeks. He's actually SPOAKC bred, He's not a runaway fast dog, but he runs his game, and that's the thing that I think we need to look to. He's got looks, and he can run a rabbit. That's the main thing right there. Is he going to win big? No, probably not. But I like him, and I think I was having breakfast 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years ago at the World Hunt with Alan Gingrich. And I told Alan, I said, Alan, someday, is going to have to breed some dogs that can run a rabbit. Too many people, all they want to do is win. We need to breed rabbit dogs.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's this dog's name that you're promoting?
He is Rowden's Blazing Ace.
Blazing Ace.
Am I promoting him? I don't know if exactly that or not. I don't want to run. He's a 5-year-old dog. He's a beautiful dog. And I'm going to use him to breed a female or two with him and see how it works out. But he's an AKC dog.
Mm-hmm.
And he's bred to run in SPO trials. That's what he actually is. He's a grandson of Kicking Up Kane. Kimball's Kicking Up Kane. Most people that know AKC dogs will know him.
Mm-hmm.
And am I promoting him to try to breed 50 females? No.
Mm-hmm.
But I am proud of him. I like him. He's a hard driving, big mouth, and beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Gary, I thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story about your beagles and the history behind Brook Hollow and just opinions on all kinds of different things. I just really appreciate your time. And I know one thing I learned about you is that you're a man of the Lord. And I was wondering if before we switch over and kind of end this portion for the interview, would you mind saying a prayer or a blessing out there for folks and their hounds in the coming years?
I would be more than happy to. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, our Lord Jesus Christ, Lord, I ask you that some way that the men, women, boys, and girls could, through this Beagle program or the coon hunts or wherever we are, that they could realize that the Lord God Almighty and His Son Jesus is responsible for all of this. It was made and promoted by God. And Lord, although I know that many people doesn't ever consider God in their program, in their life, in anything, Jesus Christ loves each and every man, woman, boy, and girl out there enough that He died on the cross of Calvary for my sins and for their sins as well. In the name of the Lord Jesus, I ask that our sport advances and that people realize that Jesus is the reason. In His precious name I pray. And amen. And amen.
Amen. Good prayer, Gary. We really appreciate that. And for those that are listening, we're going to transition. Gary, if you've got just a few minutes, I'd love to ask you about your coon hunting dogs too.
All right.
I promise not to keep you much longer, so we're going to roll into a little bonus time if you've got it. But could you tell us a little bit about your coon hunting background?
Well, like I said, I started with my granddad back when we possum hunted, and for many years I just coon hunted. We killed a coon as long as we could, but then I got involved in UKC coon hunts. I hunted walker dogs for many years. I was a great proponent of Dwayne Clark's Grand Creek rock dogs. I hunted several of those. I never was able to develop a bloodline that I could feel like they would win as well as the Beagle world we're in right now. But long toward the end of my career, or time that I coon hunted, I got to thinking about these Usman dogs. They're right here on my doorstep. I mean, Lonnie and Wilbur and all those boys are 30, 40 miles from me. and they was already made sale for your dog if you wanted to go to their dog. So I switched over in the last few years, and I actually hunted for coon dogs. I hunted Possum blue dogs, and I just started getting older, and diminishing area that you had to coon hunt in, I felt like it was just going away, and I got back into the legal business. But that's kind of my coon hunting world. I've had a couple of grands. I had a blue dog. His name was Top Gun, and I had an old Walker dog, Booker County Jess, that a lot of people locally will remember. And that's pretty much all as far as really making many coon hunts, big coon hunts. I was never able to. And a lot of that, Beagles as well, is due to the fact that I was a minister and I had a church to take care of. Mm-hmm. And the hunts that would either be far away on Saturday night and I couldn't get back from my church, or in the bigger world, a lot of the finals of the big hunts are on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much, I just come up hunting.
Well, Gary, what was the best coon dog you owned? Was it Top Gun? Was it Jess? Or was it a different dog? Or what was the best one you owned? And then in addition to that, what was the best one you ever hunted against?
Coon dogs?
Yeah, coon dogs.
The best one. It would be hard to say which of those two dogs was the best. Probably the old blue dog, Top Gun. We called him Bubba. Mm-hmm. But he was probably the best. The old Jess dog, when you turned him loose, he was going to tree a coon. It might be 20 miles away, but he was going to tree. And I didn't really like that as well. We didn't have tracking systems those days. Mm-hmm. And the old Top Gun dog, he'd just go out there and tree a coon. That was about all you could say for it. Mm-hmm. And he was very tough in his day. He was direct out of the Possum bloodline. I think that was kind of a two-part question.
Yeah. So what was the best dog you ever hunted against? Somebody else owned.
I think back, and I don't even know who owned her. Mm-hmm. I don't know what her name was, but I hunted in a world qualifying event one night against a blue tick female out of Cadiz, Kentucky, and she would just bark and get a little steady with her barking, and before you realize it, she'd have a coon tree. And she just really laid it on the dogs that we had in that cast that night. And there was an old Walker dog that was here close. Sam Lawrence had him. And he would tree kitten coons, every one in the litter. He might not go 20 feet, but he'd tree another tree and have a kitten. And his name was Major. And he was pretty tough, but that old blue female probably was as good a hound as I ever hunted with it in my entire hunting career.
Wow.
And I have no idea what the guy's name was, what the hound's name was. Mm-hmm. But
well, how do you mentioned how that Walker dog hunted? He'd just take off, and you might get him a couple counties over. So how have coon dogs changed since you started, since you were a young man? How are they different today versus back then?
Well, now part of this is hearsay because I haven't coon hunted in many years. Mm-hmm. But the dogs that they're hunting in PKC, if I understand it right, you turn 4 dogs loose or 3 dogs loose or whatever the case may be, and they just go all in opposite directions. They won't tree together. You have 4 dogs treated at the same time, and maybe you walk all night to actually get all 4 of the dogs. They don't pack. They don't honor. They don't tree together, and that is completely different from what it was when I was a young man and actually coon hunting. Our dogs treated on the same tree. Is it because they're mean? I don't know. I'm not close enough to it to know what is actually going on here, but that is not what I consider a coondog. Mm-hmm. But they're doing it for money, and they're, big money. Most of the time you get money involved, you lose some quality of whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things you mentioned, one of the reasons that you may have started switching over to rabbit hunting from coon hunting was just the loss of places to hunt. It's harder to find good spots to hunt. And it's the same here for me, and that's one of the reasons I do a lot more rabbit hunting today than coon hunting. But what does the future of coon hunting look like out there?
Here, yeah. I think it's very bleak. I live right across the road from the coon hunting, the rabbit hunting clubhouse as well. It belongs to the coon hunters, and they have a hunt, and there might be 4 or 5 dogs there. If they're actually fortunate to get that many. Mm-hmm. When I was hunting as a young man, you pull into the hunt ground, and there would be pickups everywhere. There would be dogs everywhere. And it was just completely and totally different. I see the coon hunt. One thing, you can't sell a coon hide anymore. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And kids just don't have the incentive to go coon hunt like they did back then. And is it ever going to get better? I honestly, I don't see it getting better. Mm-hmm. The big world, we've got a chance. The coon hunting world, I don't see it.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for sharing your opinions on that too. I think I'm probably very similar in how I'm thinking to how you're thinking. Is there, and again, thank you for staying a little extra for us today and talking coon dogs too. But Gary, is there anything I didn't ask you about the coon hunting? Any old memories that you have, or anything else you'd like to talk about before we wrap it up?
Well, that kind of throws you under the bus.
I didn't mean to do that.
I didn't write down any notes.
No. That's perfectly okay.
I can't think of anything. It's just I still love to hear a coon dog get treated. I love it. But first of all, I can't walk. Second of all, no place to hunt. Mm-hmm. And third, I don't like style dogs they're hunting. But that's just a few things that I might say. I don't want to become much more conscious of good dog work in the coon dogs as well as the beagles, mm-hmm. And not just running and people wanting to win.
Yeah. Well, Gary, I thank you so much for taking time out and sharing not only your history and your life with the beagles, but also going way back to the coon dog days too, and sharing some of those stories. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the prayer too, kind of the blessing that you did over our listeners out there as they go out and have fun with their hounds in the coming months. But I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to hearing from you again in the future.
Well, I thank you very much, and it's so good to be able to share some of these things that most of the younger hunters, especially in the beagle world, and maybe in the coon world too, but the beagle hunters, the dogs that I mentioned, they never heard of them. Mm-hmm. And they were good dogs. Mm-hmm. And it's fun to share those things with you, and I appreciate the opportunity.
We appreciate having you on. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Buff in the Rough, and remember to like and subscribe if you want to be notified when we have new content available. And please send comments and suggestions to buffintherough@gmail.com.